So in this lesson I'm going to show two different types of minor scales and how they affect the chords that you're going to use. So natural and harmonic minor, right, the most common two. And I'll do this from the key of A. So A natural minor, basically you're using all the natural notes. So the scale goes like this, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, right? And harmonic minor, the only thing that changes is the G. So this G becomes G sharp. So let me talk about chord differences now between these two scales. So the only difference is the 7th degree, right? So in this case, G. We have G sharp in harmonic minor and G natural and natural minor. So basically any chords that would contain that note are going to be different between the two scales, right? So what that means is the G chord, the E chord, and the C chord are going to be different, right? And the G chord is the 7, the E chord is the 5, and the C chord is the 3, right? So first let's look at harmonic minor. So this is our 1, right? Now our G chord is going to be diminished, right? Like that. Our E chord is going to be major, right? We can make that a dominant 7, like this. And our C chord is going to be augmented, right? Now in practice what this really means is you don't use the C chord too much in the context of harmonic minor, because augmented in most music, in most styles of music, this would sound pretty dissonant, right? I mean, it kind of sounds specific to jazz. And the 7 chord here, the diminished triad, this basically functions as an extension of the 5. So like, right, because when you make this a dominant 7, when you make the E a dominant 7, that already contains the G sharp diminished triad. So basically the central chord motion in harmonic minor is this, right? Or 1, 4, 5. So A, D minor, E major, and back to A. So harmonic minor is basically, it comes from classical music. This would have been the type of minor that would be used exclusively in classical music, especially with regard to chords. And it's also what's used most of the time in Latin music. Right, that chord motion. So let's move on to natural minor now. In natural minor, so the three chords that are going to be different, right? G, 7, E, the 5 chord, and C, the 3 chord. Basically the G is going to be a G major chord. Right, so, right, the E is going to be an E minor chord. So, and the C is going to be a C major chord. Right, so we have so none of these chords have the same kind of forward drive like that the harmonic minor cadence has. So none of them have this kind of grand ending. So what that means is you can use a lot more of them, and they're more interchangeable, and you have more options in terms of where each one goes. So when you hit that E minor after the A minor, it doesn't necessarily want to go right back to the A minor. It can, but it doesn't have to. Right? And actually more common than this is to just substitute the 7 rather than 5. So right. That's more common than this. Right. And then you can use this 3 as a way of going to major, right? Stuff like that. So basically, in summary, in harmonic minor, the most important thing is this, right? So going a half step below the tonic creates a kind of forward motion that pushes the melody back to the tonic, and this comes out in the chords where you use that strong E major chord, right? The 5 chord that pushes it back. So harmonically, the most important chords in harmonic minor are 1, 4, and 5, right? So something you hear all the time in Latin music and classical music. In natural minor, that 7, it doesn't have that, it's not as important. It doesn't have that same forward push that harmonic minor has. So, right? I mean, again, when you go, it wants to resolve here, but not nearly as strongly as this, right? And especially when you add the 5 chord in there, right? Or it doesn't, again, it has a forward push, but not nearly as strong. Same with the 7, right? So what that means is 1, 4, 5 becomes less important in natural minor. So rather than that, it opens different possibilities. You can have stuff like 1, 3, 4, 7, 1. And it also increases the possibility of going from any chord to any other chord, because you don't have these really dissonant chords like the diminished and the augmented that come up in harmonic minor. So basically, you can just play around with the triad chords, going by 3s or 4s or 2s. And it's all, you're going to come up with progressions that will be used. Stylistically, this sounds a lot more kind of maybe folksy. It's something you're a lot more likely to hear in American music, right? As opposed to which kind of instantly gives the Spanish sound.